Okay, I don't know if I can do this video quickly. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the truth channels out there lately have been churning out, excuse me, tons and tons of videos, and they are very long. And getting through them all, there's a bunch of videos out there I'd like to watch, but getting through them all is next to impossible. So I'm going to try and do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. I'm going to try and keep my videos short. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about public versus private law. Okay, I can't really go into depth on it because I don't know enough about it, but I know enough that I know I know enough personally that I don't want to. That's not the route for me. But I'm going to just explain some things, and maybe there'll be something in here for somebody. But this video is basically inspired by a comment that I got from a guy. I suppose it's a guy called Bro T. He asked me to look at a video by Tom Barnett and another character called Mark and give some feedback on it. Anyway, I went over. You might recognize the Tom Barnett character. I think he had a video that Richie from Boston posted a while back on the virus. But basically, in this video, they're talking about, remedies within the legal system to deal with the overstepping bounds of the government, basically. And basically what that boils down to is public versus private law. So I'm going to give some sort of feedback on that now. The video's, did I say this already, 2 hours long, and I'll link it below. It's worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch. There's some interesting stuff in it, but if you don't have 2 hours to spare, I don't know. Anyway, what is public and what is private? Let's do a quick definition. Public is basically anything to do with the government. That's that side of law. That's anything to do with the government. So the rules and regulations that the government make up to control your behaviour. Okay, and private law is to do with disputes between individuals, basically, and not necessarily disputes, but like property law, like if you're transferring deeds between individual to individual, that's private law. Okay, now what to say about it? Now, the kind of remedy that this character's using, and he says he has a lot of success, is, from what I take from the video, is he is basically signing his contracts or dealings with the government with a private signature. So he's reserving his rights. Now, what I think this means, okay, the reason why I think this works is because by reserving your rights when you sign a document, it means that you are not accepting a lower station as an individual, because I don't want to be calling, even in the thing that is kind of said by these people that push the private idea, is that you're a private man, which that isn't going to work within the legal system. Okay, you're just a private individual. It may look like you're more of a man, and you may fit in with the idea of a man more fully in that sense, but you can never be a man. A man can never deal with the legal system. There has to be a character created. But what I think's happening with the all rights reserved, when you sign your name in his remedy, it's by such and such, all rights reserved. I think, and I've come across this in the past with other people, this idea of reserving your rights is what means that you're not descending to a lower station of a man. Okay, and when you descend to that lower station, when you're willing to operate as a as a sub-man or a human, a colour of a man. That's, in my opinion, that's where the term human comes from. It's a colour of a man. Okay, that's what the legal system deals with. It's colours. It's different shades of something that's in the real world becomes something that is a colour within the legal system. It's a shade of grey rather than the actual colour, you know, the actual thing. Sorry. So if you think of the term human, hue being a colour of a man, a human. Okay, so you've taken a lesser station when you don't reserve your rights, supposedly. Now, this is all ideas that are put there by the legal system, but this is the idea that people portray, is that if you don't reserve your rights, then you're accepting that lower station, that signature's accepted the lower station now, and now the government can deal with that. Okay, because then they're dealing with a subclass. They're dealing with something that actually is not. I don't know where it fits in, really, to tell you the truth. It's not really in the private sector, in the private sector of law, in the private genre of law, because it's an amalgamation or a chimera of sorts. It's the monster. It's the hybrid of somebody that's willing to not accept the full status of a man, which is a man is given certain rights by God, and those rights can't be taken away from by anybody. Okay, so if you have rights that can't be taken away, but you give them away, you're willing to accept that lower status. Now you're a subcategory, and now supposedly the legal system can deal with you. The public side of law can deal with you as well. I don't know. I'm guessing that's what the idea behind, why putting all rights reserved and writing by, so that the idea of writing by means that you're not accepting the role as the person straight off, and then having all rights reserved means you're not accepting a lower status. I hope that makes sense to somebody. But that's where I get to. Now, if you are in the private, that does not mean that you are operating as a man. You are still operating within the legal system, and the legal system is still going to define your rights. Okay, now it just may be that they're defining them as natural rights at the minute, given by God. But if that is a person, if you look at the definitions, you won't see it mentioned. I don't think it's mentioned. Anyway, at least where I've looked, like black laws and that, it's not, that private individual is not referred to as a man. The legal system can't deal with a man. It can only deal with fictional characters. So it has to create another character, and it might call that character a human or a living being, or I don't even know if it calls it a living being, but I definitely think it says human at some point in one of the references, and could still be a citizen, or a person, or they call them an individual, and then you get into ideas of natural individuals or natural persons, and again, those definitions are still only talking about, they're never talking about a real man. They're always talking about some kind of idea, some kind of fictional idea. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but operating in the private still does not mean that you are operating as a man. It may mean you're operating closer to what a man would operate, but you're not operating as a man. Now, this is why it probably gives some good results for this guy. But the way I look at it is that it's just another thing put there by the system itself to keep you controlled within the framework of the system. Okay, if you can get people to stay within the system as a person, a private person, then they're still within the system. They're still within that element of control. They can still be tested as well. You know, you go into court, they're still going to test you, and they're going to test you. And then there's still a set of rules that you've got to work under. Okay? So there's still a lot of stuff that's got to be learned. And this is where an element of desperation might come in by certain, some people, they look at this as an idea for remedy. I think, oh, this is going to cost me money, and this sounds so complicated. I don't know if I can do this, and all of a sudden, that complexity that they put there is a trap. It stops people from. I tell you, well, it stops people from looking at natural law, but it also draws attention away from natural law. If you don't know natural law's there because you're looking at this avenue now, you're going down that rabbit hole, and that's the whole purpose of the system, is to keep you going down rabbit holes that will keep you distracted enough so you don't find the true remedy to the whole thing, which is nature. That's the way I look at it, anyway. So, although looking at that, watching that video and knowing some of these techniques and how things are gonna go down if you're in court, and the kind of rules and all the other stuff. Now, you've got to remember, is a lot of those rules and a lot of those ideas are actually taken from natural law. So some of the stuff does make a lot of sense, but this idea of operating in honor and that kind of thing, and not getting into arguments. They talk about all this. He talks about all this in the video, But as for actually needing to do that, if you know natural law, and natural law can be boiled down very quickly into having, it's basically, you just got to have enough common sense in order to be able to distinguish between the jurisdiction of fiction and the jurisdiction of the material realm. Okay? On top of that, you need to know the basic rule of natural law, which is don't take what's not yours. Okay? And if something is taken against somebody else's wishes, then that has to be repaid. That value has to be restored. That's it. That's natural law done right there. Now you can just apply that and common sense to any situation, and you can figure out what the right answer is. Okay? You don't need, I say this you don't really need to know all the legal procedure if you can get your message across clearly and the judge knows that you know what you're talking about. I don't think you need to know all of that legal stuff, but it doesn't hurt to know it, and it doesn't hurt to know how they're going to deal with you when you do go into court, or if you have to deal with something in legal terms. So, anyway, I don't know what else to say about it, other than just because you're operating in the private doesn't mean that you necessarily have all of your God-given rights. Okay? Because that person, the idea that is behind the legal system, has to transfer what is in the real world into an assimilation, or in the legal system. Has to assimilate that information from the real world into the legal system, and things get lost along the way, and things get compromised, and things can be manipulated once it's within somebody else's idea. So I think it's just simpler to operate under natural law. And that's the end of the video, basically. I think that's better than the last one. I tried to do this a few minutes ago, and it was a 30-minute video, and that was just no good, so I had to redo it. But anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope that explains some stuff. A quick recap is the reason why this guy's probably having some luck with his remedy is that he is establishing, whether it be through the signature, but I'm sure there's some questions. It would be nice to be a fly on the wall within the discussions he's having with judges and those kind of administrators and people that he sits down and has meetings with. It'd be interesting to know what the actual conversation is, because I don't think necessarily writing all rights reserved means all of your God-given rights are reserved. Maybe it does. Maybe that's what the legal system adopts as their thing for that. But if there's discussions, and this is why they might be having success, is that if natural law is creeping in there, which it will, because there is a separation there, okay, and it basically boils down to the private side of things is I think more closely associated with natural law, okay, and that's probably why they're having this jurisdictional success with the signature, etc. But what's the conversation they're having, and how's that going down in court? And if the judge realizes that they know that they are operating as men now, then he's got no option but to say, okay, get out of here. But if you have somebody that becomes complacent, pays for the remedy, and says, well, I just signed my name like that because I know, and the judge tests them, now all of a sudden you could get trapped if you don't really know what you're talking about. And that's the problem with going and paying for a remedy. If you really don't know what you're talking about, and I'm betting, I don't like to bet, but there could be a chance that when you do sit down with these people to learn things, there's several other people that charge for this sort of going into the private realm within the legal system. There's a good chance that they're going to teach you some natural law stuff and that boundary between what is just the legal system in general as a fictional idea and what a man is. So anyway, I don't want to waffle anymore. That's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed, and give me a comment or whatever, if there's something else you want to know, or if I need to clarify something I've said here. Anyway, cheers, thanks for watching, bye.